When we remove the Lord's name, Emmanuel, from the name of his church, we inadvertently remove him as the central focus of our worship and our lives. This is not the Church of Latter-day Saints, Joseph Smith. This is the Church of Jesus Christ. It was during my young adult years that I began to gain a deep testimony of God the Father and his beloved Son, Jesus Christ. I came to know for myself that Jesus Christ was born of the Virgin Mary, who was a precious and chosen vessel.
Travis Mangazzo. Last night I did a comment reply video and included a Jasmine question with it. And in the course of her question, she did it again. Jasmine, you're awesome. Why can't Mormons be like Jasmine? I don't get it. See, typically my videos are for Mormons trying different ways, presentations to get their attention so that they can be saved. There's a threat to them specifically. All prophecies are about Mormons and warning them of the danger they'll be in. And yet, because of the danger that Mormons are in, the captivity that they're in, the blindness that's been caused on them, they don't see it. They reject it. They don't believe it. And here comes Jasmine. Not even a Mormon. Missionaries came to her door and were teaching her and James, interracial couple, not a part of any religion, and she investigates the church, found my channel, and has been asking me questions. And the previous big bombshell that she dropped was asking about Christmas trees, not realizing that Jeremiah chapter 10 is the bombshell of the date for the latter days, the dates with the word for signs. And so, yeah, it's just amazing to read her comments and have these bombshells that only I know about because I studied. Being born and raised in the Covenant Mormon, I obeyed and studied. See, back in my day, it was the still small voice. That's long gone. It's now the still small feeling, as Mormons turned Moroni chapter 10 into read, ponder, pray, and get the right feeling. No more do you follow the process, which is actually being talked about there, but referring to Alma chapter 32, starting in verse 28, in which we have to produce the results of the word. And all my videos are a demonstration of this. I'm producing the results of the word for you. It is my testimony. All my videos are my testimony. And so with that inspiration came a whole bunch more pictures. And also, as I've been talking about in my videos lately, I needed to revise after the Jeremiah 10 bombshell, the little latter-day map. And so with this bombshell on the story of Tamar from Genesis 38 comes the revision of the map in multiple ways for you, hoping you'll figure this out finally. And so, yeah, it's just amazing as she knows nothing of the subject matter. This is all brand new for her. And yet the questions she asks is the most important questions that anybody could ask when studying the scriptures. It's just, it really is inspiring to see that she is inspired to ask the right questions, and she doesn't know it. It's just amazing to me. And so I had gone to bed and had produced a whole bunch more revelation, such that the video that I did last night will be cut, so that the regular comment replies introduction will be another video that I'll do after. And then this introduction will then lead into the part where I start going over Genesis 38 to explain Tamar. And then I will then add the next recording that I'll make of the added revelation as I was going to bed. So that's what we got going here. And so what's it going to take, Mormons? I mean, it's now a person who's not even religious to try to get your attention. That's how far gone you are as Mormons, who you know are the chosen ones, but you just don't know how chosen you actually are, being the fulfillment of all scriptural prophecies in the learning of the Jews. So let's get on with it. You're awesome, Jasmine. All right, now let's get to Jasmine. I'm technically wanting to go all night. Just spend the whole night trying to catch up on fashion. We'll see. The thing is that even though I get narcoleptic episodes, it's as if I didn't crash and get some sleep, because I can still go to bed at the normal time and keep my normal schedule. It's weird. But I was doing some catch up on that while I was listening to the video I just uploaded. There is still a lot more to be done. It would be nice if YouTube wasn't mean and requiring me to be signed in for these women. It's just, YouTube is catering to religion, not to the laws. And it's abominable. We cannot allow religion to intercede to force everybody to follow their standards and values in our nation. They are the enemy when they seek to take away our agency and force us to obey their standards and values. Evangelicals are idol worshippers. It's all about that thing is evil, that thing is good. That object is evil, that object is good. That's idol worship. It's condemned in the Bible that they claim they believe in. You know, it's worse for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because they're non-Trinitarian. Everything is now exponentially worse with their misinterpretations of not only the Bible, but Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon, which are the learning of the Jews. And so, we get to talk about Tamar. Even the Jews don't want to talk about it. Hey Travis, I will saturate your email. Still haven't seen it yet. Where's the saturation? LOL. I'm telling my friends about your channel. Oh, great. In the older singles ward, even in the younger singles ward, there were those women who were going to set me up with the perfect girl. Not them, someone else. So I'm having flashback nightmares. But I'm sure that's for knowledge about the church. So hopefully they don't come and not understand what my channel's about and end up saying something stupid that will get them banned from my channel. But if they're your friends, I'm sure they'll be perfect too, just like you guys are. And so I may start getting more views. That's the thing with YouTube, is they purposely, when they see a breakout take place, as what happened, they shut me down on Thursday. But it was back up a little bit because of Nelson and his breaking news of Karen. So, yeah, which is unprecedented. So, and plus, if I stay up, I can finish La Brea tonight, or early tomorrow morning. We'll see. If I stay up and I get too tired around 2 or even 3 o'clock, I'll end up missing my run. So that's the only dilemma in this, is that I'm not in a position to just sleep when I want, eat when I want, exercise when I want, because my living conditions are still not set up for that ideal situation, living here in Utah with the pollution and other situations that I have going on in my life. I have to establish a pattern for my health purposes. So here is the current problem. Oh, good, you're explaining your problem. Excellent. With my understanding of the learning of the Jews, a couple of my Christian friends, Christians are attacking you now. Out of the fire, back into the frying pan. Are debating. And Christians don't know how to debate properly. They use fallacy arguments with Christian bias. It's Bible bashing, just like Mormons and those missionaries. They have no clue how to soundly argue using Socratic methodology and avoiding fallacy arguments. Wikipedia, fallacies. I believe that's... Yeah. And then there's list of fallacies also. So under list of fallacies, they've actually designed this pretty well. They've got formal fallacies and the different types of formal fallacies, of propositional fallacies, quantification fallacies, formal syllogistic fallacies. Informal fallacies is the next category, and then a whole long list of informal fallacies. And you'll hear me refer to Mormons making these informal fallacies. And you've probably heard of slippery slope in the news or in other people's channels not related to religion. They are pulling a informal fallacy. They're wrong. And then there's an improper premise under informal fallacy, a faulty generalizations, questionable cause, and under questionable cause there are statistical fallacies. And so yes, all of the polls on the news, breaking news, polls say Biden sucks. That's a statistical fallacy under informal fallacy under questionable cause. And then there's relevance fallacies, red herring fallacies the church likewise is involved with those, as ad hominem, there it is, is listed there, which is the most common fallacy argument used by Mormons, specifically Mormon apologists. But all the hate comments that I get, yeah, those are ad hominem, informal fallacies. So, list of fallacies. One debate brought in James's sister. Oh, never bring in sister, never bring in families. Off limits. She has been a Seventh-day Adventist. Okay, bring her in. Seventh-day Adventist had a prophecy of the latter days, and it didn't come to pass, and they're still moving on. As if it never happened. So, Adventist Protestant Christian denomination. Its emphasis on the imminent second coming advent of Jesus, and its annihilationist soteriology grew out of the Millerite movement because of the wrong date for the latter days. And yet they still are sticking to the claim it's imminent. Any day now, it's going to happen. And so automatically wrong. Because you go over a list of fallacies and you see where that is. For 30 plus years, dear God, I have studied about Ellen G. White. James's sister said the JS and the Mormon Church. Do you mean JWs? Is that a typing error? And the Mormon Church are a cult. So I had to ask her, how can Ellen G. White be a prophet? He spelled it Profit. That's a joke for Mormons. Because of their tithing scandals and financial crimes. The Seventh-day Adventists don't really have those. But that is cute. Of God, simply because she got hit in the head with a rock. And was in a coma for weeks, then woke up and started talking to God. Oh, yeah, that sounds like a medical condition. But, yeah, she has her own Bible. So a couple of questions. One, have you heard of her Bible or read any of it? Well, let's Google search the PDF. Ellen G. White. Bible PDF. Looks like commentary is showing up here. E.G.W. Writings, the Bible Echo. She wrote more than 100,000 pages on a wide variety of spiritual and practical topics. Guided by the Holy Spirit, she exalted Jesus and pointed to the... Yeah, that's a period. So let's see if this is going to be a PDF of her book. 549, The Bible Echo. Ellen G. White Estate. So I am now adding it to my collection. And I'll keep it up and put it in the description below. Got to get out of my fashion files. Put it in the right files. Alrighty. And 2, the story of Tamar in the Bible. Big old massive tangent. What is to be learned from that? So we'll conclude with Tamar, the awesomest woman in the Bible. Although Ishtar is close. We can say that Tamar is the Torah queen. And 38. And so chapter 38 of Genesis takes us on a tangent, which is what I often do in my videos. So yeah, I'm just inspired by the Bible and follow and emulate the Bible. That's all, guys. That's all. Don't be haters. And so it's 30 verses. And so we'll skim over it and give commentary as we go. Background information that you will get exclusively from me. When I talked about working on the revision of the footnotes in the 2000s for the 2009 Spanish edition, which I went over with you recently, showed you Deuteronomy 18 and my influence in there. That's me in the change. That was me. I made that change. That's what they approved. That was me, guys. Mormons don't want to acknowledge that. Critics don't want to acknowledge that. I'm a big deal. But James, who I mentioned had studied Jewish law at the Roman period time, it was him who, when we were reviewing this, had submitted a proposal to take out Bruce R. McConkie's wording in the chapter heading that Tamar, as a harlot, bears twins by Judah. She is not a harlot. She is a hero. She was following the law, which is what we're going to get into. And asked if I would sign off on it with him. Of course I would. Because he's correct. She's not a harlot. The church rejected that. It remains Tamar as a harlot. The church does not like women. I do not understand why women remain in the church, other than Stockholm Syndrome. But the Jews do not understand this, which is sad, because they should. It's easy. They have to memorize their Torah before they're 12 years old. I don't understand why they don't understand this. But it's similar to the same thing that Christians don't like it either. As it gets pornographic. And yes, the Bible was banned here in Utah. And in retaliation, people then filed to have the Book of Mormon banned. And so then the government had to relent and, okay, fine, you can have the Bible back. So it's now talking about Judah, one of the sons through Leah, and I believe he was number 4. It was Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah. If I got that right, I had to use associative memory, not memorization memory, so I could be wrong. But I do know he is through Leah, not through Rachel. Right, because Rebecca is Isaac's wife. And so, in the larger context, the Genesis author is repeating a pattern of the usurpation of the birthright and the blessing. And so, Reuben, Simeon, Levi lose the birthright blessing and defaults to Judah for what they did to Joseph. And even Judah technically should also be included. But he's not. He becomes the default leader of the tribe through Leah. But Joseph is the birthright blessing favorite of Jacob, who became Israel, who usurped the birthright and blessing from Esau. And so Judah has to do with Mormons and the betrayal of Mormons of their Christ, Joseph. Not only Joseph Smith Jr., but also the Latter-day Christ. Because Joseph is the Messiah of the author of Genesis. That's the name he gave. Noah also. But he merges several different messiahs into a narrative that ends with Joseph. So that's the learning of the Jews part of that. And so, yes, all of the names are specifically given because of the meaning of the baby name. And yes, as I pointed out, it does have to do with Mormons for the latter days. But they don't want to believe. And so, this shows how Judah is wicked. He doesn't want to follow the law. And Tamar has to step up and remind him to obey the law. And so he went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adullamite whose name was Hirah. And so he's marrying out of the covenant. Yes, you can say interracial. Are you concerned you're Tamar? But this is more for the house of Israel through Jacob, Israel, is the birthright blessing. And so they have to inbreed, which has to do with the Egyptian pharaohs. Again, learning of the Jews. But, and so Judah is being rebellious by marrying a daughter of the Canaanites, just like Esau did. And her name was Judith. After he lost the birthright and blessing, Esau goes and marries a Judith who's of the Philistines, a Canaanite from Gaza. Which, yeah, there's issues with Islam calling the land Palestine, Philistia. And so the daughter was named Shua, and I do sense salvation of Yah in there, which is Isaiah, but I'd have to check Blue Letter Bible for that. It can have meaning because you have Utah marrying Isaiah as a female, but Judah also is Judah and female and land, but that's a Hebrew thing. And so you have a flashback to Genesis talking about the sons of God marrying the daughters of men. Joseph Smith changes that in the Joseph Smith translation of selections from the Book of Moses, in which it's the daughters of the sons of God marrying the sons of men. This is an interreligious marriage that's going on. And for a woman to be in the covenant family, to marry outside of the covenant, automatically disqualifies her children from being birthright blessing children, heirs to the tribe. That's what's not being understood here and taught by the Genesis author. And so in this particular case, Judah, rather than marrying a woman in the covenant to preserve the bloodline, he's going out of the covenant to those who are not in the covenant. A Canaanite who appears to have the same name as Isaiah, which is Jesus in reverse. Thus prophecy, Mormons don't care. And so he went in unto her. They had sex. There is no talk of getting married to her. He just liked her. They had sex. She got pregnant. That's what happens. She conceived and bore a son and called his name I'm willing to bet that is light. We can check. Don't want to delete that one. The Bible Echo. So I guess we are going to have to look up the names. And Westminster Leningrad Codex for the Biblical Hebrew text. It's just salvation. Shua. The H is added in by the Masoretes in the translation into English, as they have the little line underneath the ayin in Babylonian Semitic terminology for the letter. Interesting. So it's just salvation. Judah marries salvation, or has sex with salvation. Utah has sex with salvation, but it's the wrong salvation. She's a Canaanite, not an Israelite. Oh, it's not light. It's raw. But reversed. Esau had his first son named Ra, the Egyptian god, which the 19th dynasty used in place of Ammon, but then syncretized, whatever that word is, where they merged the two deities together into one. It was the 19th dynasty that did that after taking over the 18th dynasty of the David Moseses. But we don't want to go down that path. So, interesting. I like this Genesis author. He's cool. So, yeah, it's fascinating to see what he's talking about there. Okay. Back to the story. And he's wicked, obviously. He's the 19th dynasty deity that usurped the birthright and blessing from the 18th dynasty pharaohs. And the Lord murdered him. And what's interesting is, what verse was it? 7. Okay. Yeah, they use the reverse of his name, wicked. It's wicked. It's wrong, but he's using a play on words. Ruth, for example, is defined as a friend. That's her baby name meaning. It's Ra with a T at the end for the feminine singular, which is one of the versions of the Masoretes, using that terminology rather than the H for Shua, the wife of Judah, or the sex baby mama of Judah. And they do use Yahweh. That's what's meant by the Lord here. Okay. Interesting. So Yahweh is the Christ of the Jews. But interesting. And so is the false prophet, false birthright blessing son. And Yahweh, the battle, Revelation 19. That's what you're seeing here, is that version of the story of Revelation 19, played out in verse 7. And so Judah said unto Onan, who's Onan? Oh, second son. Got it. Verse 4. Go in unto thy brother's wife. This is the law. Marry her, raise up seed to thy brother. This is the law. It's not the law of Moses, per se, because the 18th dynasty of the David Moseses, but the Genesis author is writing during the Roman period time and prophesying about the latter days. And so you cannot put literal history in here because it's gonna screw up. Just like Christians did to the Gospels. And so, if a woman is widowed, the brother is responsible for her care because she has no rights. A man is required to care for women. And so if a woman never gets married in the first place, the parents have to take care of her. And oftentimes women would have to be put in the temple to work in the temples if they were unmarried. And so during the Greek period, they were sacral prostitutes. In the Roman period, men also were also sacral prostitutes. That's the culture of the author writing this. This is why talking about sacral prostitution here. Because Judah is going to go to the temple to worship with a sacral prostitute. And so Onan knew that the seed would not be his. It belonged to his brother. But he's dead. Get over it. You get to have sex. There are some of us who would just long to have a woman in our lives. And here you are, complaining. And so he went in unto his brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground. And there's the porn, that even the author couldn't say it. Let's look up verse 9 and see what he says in the Hebrew. Okay. Onan knew not his. That's supposed to be seed? Interesting. Yahweh, the Lord, Oh, right. Different spelling. So he went. That's brother and wife. Wife, brother. On the earth, Eretz. Interesting. Zara. And he's focusing on Ra. That's seed. Yeah, Zara is seed, but it's at the end. It's not what is spelled. Interesting. Okay. And so, yes, this is another justification for no masturbation allowed. That's what he spelled. And that's not the case here. The sin is that he is not giving his brother's widow a baby, an heir. Birthright, blessing. That's what this is all about. He's refusing to do that. And if you don't understand the sexual nature of a man, which I'm not worried about you, Jasmine, you're having a great life. But there are others who may be listening, probably not, who use religion to abuse people sexually with abstinence. And the concept that we're facing in this nation over whether a fetus has rights over a woman, which apparently now they do. Women no longer have rights. They have to beg a judge to reverse it just for them in this one instance. As I believe it was Texas, where the woman had to sue to request an emergency permission for an abortion. And she got it, but what about other women? All other women now have to follow that same process and procedure to sue. Unfortunately, the defense, which would have been in the state, didn't appeal it to to force her to have that baby with a delay in the trial. Dear God. And so, yeah, men, once we hit puberty at 10 and a half to 12 years old, 24/7, naturally. We can't control it. It just automatically kicks in, starts producing. And so when it gets to the point where there's enough to perpetuate the human race, it sends the signal to the brain, says, hey, we're ready. And at the beginning, it's a mild thing. You know, we have crushes on girls. And yeah, that's where the LGBTQ confusion from psychologists comes in too. They don't understand the difference. And if we do not spill it on the ground, it intensifies until it gets so extreme that that's where you get your criminal behavior from men. Rape. Violent rape. All because religion is telling them abstinence only. To just turn it off, and we can't. That's the natural, scientific, biological process. And psychology steps in to, tell us that this can be stopped and controlled, and they're abusive sexually towards us as well. Psychology is evil. And so there are, I looked this up, 1.5 to 5.0 milliliters per spelling on the ground. And it contains 20 to 150 million sperm per milliliter. That's a lot of dead babies. Don't tell the GOP MAGAs. They'll want us to freeze it and begin planting it in women so that we don't get to have sex either. As they'll have to scoop out the eggs and then just do test tube babies. No sex for anybody. And so, this is the natural process. And if you're religious, God designed it that way. So why are the leaders of the religions going against God? Go figure. And so, yeah, it's quite a fascinating tale that has been captured as a cartoon in certain movies. The race to the egg and who wins. And then the process of blowing up the egg with a light show and the cell separation and producing a baby as a result. And so, men waste multi-billions in a lifetime. That's not the sin. The sin is he is required by law to produce children for his brother, who is dead. And everybody misses that, even the Jews. And so, it displeased Yahweh. Wherefore, he slew him also. So this is not real. There wasn't an actual Christ who was going around murdering people who masturbate. That's up for the slasher films. The lake guy, that's Jason, isn't it? Jason Voorhees? At the lake, the camp, the kids' camp, and he's drowned, murdered by drowning, and so he rises from the grave to murder the sinful kids who have sex. And the token black man is first to die. The show. So, make sure you're married to James. And so then Judah is now talking with Tamar. And he says, remain a widow at thy father's house. Because Judah doesn't want to take care of her. He is passing on his responsibility to have his next son take care of her. And he's using the excuse till Shelah be grown. And he's concerned that even though he's not 10 and a half to 12 years old yet, he's going to die. as the previous two died. And so she fell for it, trusted Judah, and went and lived with her father, which is a sad fate for a woman in that cultural condition. It's a shame and humiliating disgrace for a widow to have to go back to live with her parents. In the process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. And Judah was comforted. And he went, okay, so Judah's wife is dead. And he is comforted by going to a sheep shearer, unto his sheep shearers to Timnath, he and his friend Hirah the Adamolite. And it was told Tamar, saying, thy father-in-law goeth up to Timnath to shear his sheep. And so she knew that the son was old enough, but he didn't want to follow the law. And so she put off her widow's garments. So yeah, even the stigma of the women's fashion. Get to bring in women's fashion. Awesome. Is involved here. I wonder if I should make this a separate video. I mean, it's 9 o'clock. They'd be for tomorrow's videos anyway. Because nobody is really up overnight. And covered her with a veil. And wrapped herself. Sat in an open place. And so now she's putting on the clothing of a temple prostitute. Sacral prostitute. For she saw that Salah was grown. Obviously, all those years passed. He's old enough. And Judah did not give him to her. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a sacral prostitute because she's dressed like one. He thought. Okay? This is where rapists love to blame the woman who was raped. Well, she was provoking me with those clothing. That's where they got this from. That's not the intention of the author here. It was Judah who believed that because of the clothing she wore, she was a sacral prostitute. Because she had covered her face. See where Bruce R. McClunky went wrong? And so Judah propositions her. Come in unto thee. Let me come in unto thee. He's asking for consent. For he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, what wilt thou give me? She needs money for her care. If he's going to give her a kid, she needs to be taken care of. So it's not prostitution. Because prostitutes have birth control these days. This is I am going to impregnate you and give you a kid. And so she's saying, well, I'm all by myself. I need to be compensated for the son you're going to give me, because you're apparently not willing to commit to a relationship. And so he says, here you go. And came in, and she conceived by him. She arose and went away, because that's all it was for. He needed to do it. There she was. He did it. And paid her to have the baby. And Judah sent the kid by the hand of his friend Adonai to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he found her not. Then he asked the men of that place, saying, where is the harlot? We don't know any harlot. What are you talking about? There was no harlot in that place. He believed she was a harlot. He did not understand. And he returned to Judah and said, I cannot find her. And also the men of that place said, there is no harlot in this place. There is no sacral prostitute here. What are you talking about? Do you see a temple? I don't see a temple. Are you crazy? And so he's saying, let her take it to her, lest we be shamed. Behold, I sent this kid, and thou hast not found her. And so 3 months later, it was told Judah that Tamar hath played the harlot. No. Judah was told that that woman was Tamar, that he thought was a harlot. That's the correct translation. She is with child by whoredom. Yeah, no marriage. And he paid her to care for the kid. And Judah said, bring her to me and let her be burnt. Here's the prophecy for 14th October 2023. And Jasmine, probably you don't know that. You came after that. It's the sign in the heavens. This is a prophecy of the latter days. They just gave you the date. Because Samson, his first wife, is burnt by the Philistines. Samson is the sun king. Judah, Utah, over Utah on the 14th of October 2023. Solar eclipse. Annular. The ring of fire. Facsimile number 2. And so, yes, Jasmine, again, you are awesome. I would never have come to this and have never, therefore, talked about it. You, Jasmine, it's all you to thank. See how valuable you are? And we are going to make this a separate video. We're going to do the 2 videos, comment, reply, and then this one. We'll make it a separate video. And we'll have a special thumbnail picture with facsimile number 2. And tie it to Samson somehow. With the picture that I had for the 14th of October that I was using in preparation for and the day of. She sent to her father-in-law saying, by the man whose these are, I am with child. And she said, discern, I pray thee, whose are these, the signet, the bracelets, and staff. Oops, they're mine. Judah acknowledged them, and said, she hath been more righteous than I. Yeah. Judah wrongfully accused her of being a harlot. And so when he found out that the woman had sex with him when he thought she was a harlot, a sacral prostitute, he then says that she was committing whoredom. He tried to blame her. And so now she's going, hey, it's me. Remember, you were supposed to give Salah, your son, to me, and you didn't. And then you saw me on the road, and you had sex with me, and you paid me for the child. And thus, Judah followed the law and gave her a child for his first son, because he refused to give Salah to her. And so they have what's it called? Makeup sex. He knew her again. He knew her again no more. No, they didn't have makeup sex. Gotta have makeup sex. And if my wives, when they were making up arguments to complain about me, if I knew it was role play, okay, fine, I'll play along, as long as I get to have sex. Nope, not to be. And of course, twins. Yep, that's another pattern of the Genesis author. And when she travailed, the one put forth his hand, and the midwife took and bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, "This came out first," so that they can identify. Because apparently he stuck his hand out to cross the finish line, but then pulled it back in. And so the midwife made sure to identify him. But he did not take a breath. That's the thing, is the first child to take breath. That is the firstborn. But the scarlet thread is symbolic here for what's going on. The hand, the scarlet thread, that's what is being talked about here. And it came to pass, he drew back his hand. Behold, his brother came out. Birthright blessing usurped. See what the author was doing here? And she said, "How hast thou broken forth? This breach be upon thee." And so he's named Pharez. And it's verse 29. And so you've got fruit with in Paleo Hebrew, it's the throne, the fruit of the throne for the birthright blessing son, who is the king of the tribe. That's why he's called Pharez. But it's in the suffix determinative position rather than the prefix determinative position, which is an interesting change. To switch it the other way, it would still work in Paleo Hebrew too, as a suffix, as the P would be the prefix determinative for a human holding the sacred stand that's often carried in parades, festivals and stuff like that. It carries the god statue on top of it, the image of a deity. And so then the R and the TZ would be the root word, And R is the symbol for God from Egyptian, the flag for God in Egyptian. And then the throne, God of the throne. And so it is slightly different in Paleo-Hebrew, but it conveys the same meaning in the name depending on Aramaic versus Paleo-Hebrew. But Aramaic is a different script, and so it would be Babylonian Semitic Hebrew transformation, keeping the same Paleo-Hebrew letters, because there is a difference. The R is instead the P in Paleo-Hebrew, whereas the P is now the house symbol. So he's the head of the household in Aramaic. So there you have the three translations in Paleo-Hebrew, Semitic Hebrew, and Aramaic. And then the other one came out the brother who got his birthright and blessing usurped, but had the scarlet letter. His name was Zerah. So I'm willing to bet that's the other. Interesting. And so Ra is spirit. Right? And then the Z for Zeus is the creation of the spirit. Let's go into Genesis 1. Yeah. Ra. Or Rach. And so oftentimes it's called Rakia. So yeah, it's the same spelling. So there you have it. That's the story. And I'm sticking to it. With the knowledge of the Paleo-Hebrew, Semitic Hebrew, and Aramaic that I deciphered. Had to fix the errors of scholars. So, fun passage, especially when you know the Hebrew. And that's it. What is to be learned? That is what's to be learned. The birthright and blessing. That the Danite Mormons usurped Joseph Smith and thus lost authority. But through them came the birthright blessing son. Pharez goes on to give birth to King David, the latter-day Christ, who restores the throne of his father, who was murdered by the betrayer Judah, just as Joseph is the one for that. And so that's a different story that the author of 1 Samuel, which is technically 1 Kings, goes into with the name of God at the temple of God, with God in control of the temple of God, and the sons of God have sex in the wrong room of the temple. And then God murders the sons of God and God to have the name of God put in charge of the temple of God. Samuel and Eli. And so, yeah, that's what Joseph Smith was trying to explain to Mormons. That's why Hiram's wife was told to go to this valley, because her son, Joseph Smith Sr., Fielding Smith Sr., was to be the birthright blessing son, to usurp it back from Brigham Young's church and restore Joseph Smith's church in the latter days. And Mormons refused to believe any of this. And so they, like Christians, don't see it. They are blinded with masturbation. right, as I added in the introduction, this is the extra stuff that came to my mind, just flooded my mind. As Jasmine also indicated that she was going to flood my emails. We'll see about that. Maybe she meant flood my brain, because it happened. All right. So, Jeremiah 10, that Jasmine asked, involved the word signs in verse 2. And signs is spelled with the first and two of the last letters of the Paleo-Hebrew alphabet. And it is the A, but it's turned on its side in Paleo-Hebrew, and then an X for Tau, as it's called in biblical Hebrew, or Babylonian Semitic Hebrew. It's the symbol of Chi in Greek, and Tau is a different one in Greek. It's the T rather than the X for Paleo-Hebrew. And having deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, it is connected to the Chi rather than Tau. But as the biblical authors talk about, it's related to the last letter, which is referred to in Greek as Alpha and Omega, the identity of the Christ. I am Alpha and Omega, the first and the last. And that's what he's meaning. Not only the first letter and the last letter, which combined means sign, but also it's the map of the dates of the latter days using solar eclipses, as he is the sun god at noonday, the 3 days of darkness for Emmanuel, the Jewish Christ name. And and so the pattern that I realized, which I did recognize in the main video that I gave you, is that the burning of Tamar is similar to the burning of Samson's wife, first wife. And I'd already known and been doing the videos for you that Samson was these 3 days of darkness over the United States of America. And we'll use that map again for you. And it involves Judah as the lion that Samson kills at the beginning of the story. That's the first year of the latter days. And it was the solar eclipse that we had on the 21st of August 2017, which was in the constellation Leo, the lion of Judah. And so then the wife getting burned, that was what we just had in the 14th of October 2023, an annular eclipse, the ring of fire, at her Bethlehem star of Spica, at the entrance of the womb, Virgo. And then the last one is Samson sacrifices himself to take down the Philistines at their temple. He destroys the temple and takes out the Philistines, sacrificing his life to save the house of Israel. The author sort of throws him under the bus. More died with his death than in his life. But that's having to do with 8 April 2024, where Jupiter will be in the Lamb-Ram constellation And the solar eclipse over America, the third and final day of darkness, will cross or pass over, for the Exodus, the first 2 days of darkness, creating the 2 X's of the word signs in Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 2, and in Genesis chapter 1, verse 14, creating the signs in the heavens, the stars in the heavens for signs. That's the same spelling. So at the beginning of Genesis, you have the setup for the rest of the book of Genesis. It is a prophecy of the latter days and of the Christ. And he uses specific pattern repetition throughout the usurpation of the birthright and the blessing from the other son, the other brother. That's the common pattern theme throughout the author of Genesis. And so it ends with Joseph, who is the Christ figure, but because of the pattern, every single brother who usurps the birthright and blessing is also the Christ. And so here we have Judah and Tamar producing 2 brothers, and there's a usurpation, just like Isaac and Jacob, or Jacob and Esau. Another thing is with the scarlet band or ribbon put around Zara, is that Esau is the birthright blessing son and was red, not just hairy. And so he's also called Edom, which means red. And so a direct parallel, not just a pattern match, as it's just told in a different story form. Different names of characters, different stories, but the pattern is the same. And that's the learning of the Jews' manner of prophesying, revealing the latter days. And yes, they do also give us the dates of the latter days. And with the story of Tamar, it's now confirmed. Every Jewish author knows the date of the latter days and encoded in story form for us. And so Judah is the start of the story in Genesis chapter 38. Judah is the lion's whelp from his baby blessing, his father's blessing. And that's the lion, 21st of August 2017. And then when he condemns her to die by burning, that's 14 October 2023. And then the 2 sons that are born, Pharez and Zara, those are the 2 crosses for the last day. It's awesome. You're awesome, Jasmine. Awesome. Okay. And I need... Okay, that one can be thrown away. Tamar. I did the sons that were of Judah, or at least in the video, and then I did checked on Pharez and Zara, as they do indeed correspond. to the crowning event at the third day of darkness to start the millennium. But Tamar is also needing to be explained. Because I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, I know that the T is that cross of the latter days, which are two crosses, but crossroads. And so it refers to the latter days. So she's the latter day. And then Mar, that's the word for Mary. Mary is Egyptian for love. Mary is also the wife of Jesus, as well as the mother of Jesus. Here she is portrayed as Tamar, the Mary of the last days, but also as the wife of the last days. So it's weird. Because the passage in John of when Mary comes to the tomb, this is the only gospel that we have that talks about this. None of the other gospels have this version of events. And is it 20? Yep. And so in verse 20, starting in verse 11, that's the two angels that were there. The two angels. And then Jesus appears. And he says, "Woman, why weepest thou?" He calls her woman because she has had children. Two angels. Tamar. This is the learning of the Jews. None of this is literal history. None of this happened. It was Roman Emperor Constantine with his first creed of Christianity, the Nicene Creed, that turned the Jewish prophecies of the Jewish authors in the learning of the Jews, of the Jewish Christ of the latter days, into literal histories. He really screwed everybody up. And Mormons also, to this day, are screwed up because of what Brigham Young did in usurping the birthright and blessing of Joseph Smith. And thus, for Mormons, the usurpation back to restore Joseph's church would be through the bloodline of Hiram Smith. Through Hiram's wife and son, Joseph Fielding Smith Sr. But he doesn't know that. As his first presidency statement on the One Mighty and Strong makes it very clear, he has no clue. Heber C. Kimball had fully indoctrinated him to the dark side, along with Brigham Young's church and prophets. And so this refers to her as a woman who has had children. "Why weepest thou?" she said unto him, "because they have taken away my Lord, Master, Rabbi, and I know not where they have laid him." And when she had thus said, she turned herself back and saw Jesus standing, and knew not that it was Jesus. And so again, "Woman, why weepest thou? Whom seekest thou?" And she, supposing him to be the gardener, the mailman, the plumber, the handyman, postman always rings twice, said unto him, Sir, if thou hast borne him hence, tell me where thou hast laid him, and I will take him away. And then Jesus, who the author tells us is Emmanuel, the sun god at noonday. Mary, love, beloved. She turned herself. That's not what she did. She already turned herself back. She now knows who he is, and she goes to have sex with him. And said unto him, Rabboni, which is to say, Master. Rabbi is the name of the Christ, with the T in Paleo-Hebrew, the cross. T, Rab. That's his first name. Sun God is his last name. That's why that picture. And Jesus said unto her, Don't touch me, abstinence only. For I have not yet ascended to my Father. Sign in the heavens of his death, which the Gospels talk about, and they're giving the dates, the days and the hours. So whoever that dumbass was who inserted no man knows the day or the hour in Matthew, he was purposely deceiving everyone to hide the dates that were put in there by the authors. And so this is what he's referring to, is that 8 April 2024 is the wedding supper feast of the Lamb, sacrificial lamb, at the Zion temple. And yeah, it's not built yet. Mormons did not go in 2020, which was the exact pattern match with the Exodus events of Moses, as the Jewish Christ is the man like Moses. And so this is Revelation 19 that this is talking about here. This is Revelation 19 that Tamar has her 2 sons. That's the date. And so fascinating. And so, as we just had Nelson utterly humiliate himself yet again, every time he speaks, he says something stupid and shows how not inspired he is, without any gifts whatsoever to show for it, of seer, prophet, revelator, translator. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints of Brigham Young turned Joseph Smith's Jewish religion into non-Trinitarian Christianity. Brigham went a step further, though, to say that Heavenly Father was Adam. He changed the nature and character of Jesus by doing this. No longer is he the Jewish Christ of the latter days, of which the scriptures referred to him, and specifically Matthew, as the TERS video I did brought up another Son of Man by Jesus. The disciples are asking him a question about him, and he then says, well, in the latter days, the Son of Man. No, that's not what we asked. We asked about you. You're supposed to catch on as a reader in the learning of the Jews that they're referring to the nature and character of the Jewish Christ. He's human, of the seed of a human male. Women don't have seed, and so he can't be the son of man as non-Trinitarian, and especially not Trinitarian. And so Brigham Young was pulling an even worse abomination than Christianity by saying that Adam is the seed for Jesus, having to rape his daughter, which I don't know how many grades you have to go down until... I'm pretty sure there won't be a porn site about Adam and 100 billion grades until you get to Mary. Calling it literal history. I don't know. Maybe any of you who watch porn, if you can check and see if there is such a thing. But that's what they're referring to, is a human being. And so thus Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon are talking about a human being using the learning of the Jews to prophesy of the latter days. That's why the Book of Mormon starts off with the date of 23rd September 2017 and Lehi's second vision, which is an exact pattern match for Joseph's second vision. That's why I do my videos. And so, it was Heber J. Grant that changed the nature and character yet again to conform with evangelicals, but keeping Brigham's non-Trinitarian, but no longer using Adam as Heavenly Father. Now we're back to just Heavenly Father, not Adam. And so again, the nature and character is changed. And when you change the nature and character of the Christ, you change the religion. And so this is now the third religion for Mormons. It is not Joseph's, because Brigham changed the nature and character of the deities. That changes the religion. That's the one thing you can't touch if you're claiming succession from the previous religion. And so likewise, what Constantine did, it's not taken from Judaism. It is a replacement of Judaism. It is an abomination. Claiming to be from the Jews, but completely different religion. That's abominable. If Christianity wanted to start up, they should have done their own thing. Created their own source documents. Not steal the Jews and mistranslate them with misinterpretations. And so that's what Brigham Young did to Joseph Smith. As I've been trying to expose that for you. Mormons don't believe. And so with Nelson coming out and using the Heber J. Grant version of Jesus, it means Heavenly Father as an exalted being came from outer space, came to his literal history daughter, 14 years of age, Mary, in the Roman period time, and raped her, and then abandoned her. That's the same prophecy of Judah and Tamar. Judah is Heavenly Father. Tamar is Mary. Judah rapes her. And then he abandons her. And so she's left alone to raise the two kids. And Phares goes on in another author's book to be the ancestor of King David. He uses the Genesis story of Tamar to write his book about the coming forth of King David. With David and Goliath, none of that is literal history. Again, prophecy of the latter days and the learning of the Jews. They all feed off of the same text and text patterns. And so Samson, he's a descendant of the Danites. Like I said, everything is about the Mormons. And okay, so this one I think is now done. And so yeah, the Genesis author is actually more impressive to me now because of the going over chapter 38. Because at the beginning, in verse 14 in chapter 1, he gives us the reason for his story. This is the introduction for the rest of the book. Creation of heaven and earth, as we suppose. But it's Adam and Eve, which technically is Adam and Lilith. But the author does some changes. This all comes from the Egyptian documents. The Egyptians knew these dates. That's where the Jewish authors are getting them from. The Egyptians knew all this. And so for chapter 38, there were no chapters and verses in the original author. It was just one line of continuous text for the whole book. And so at 38, you are seeing the prophecy that he explains in the beginning. The stars in the heavens are for signs, the signs of the latter days. The creation is for the latter days, for that purpose. The seed, the fruit, the first and the last, the author, the finisher, Alpha, Omega, Tau, Chi, the X rather than the T. That's what the Genesis author is telling us. The guy was brilliant. And I've been trying to get Mormons to understand that Joseph Smith Sr. rewriting the 116 pages, it's okay. Yes, it will shatter your faith that is wrong by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But Joseph Smith Sr. is also an amazing seer, prophet, revelator, and translator. The guy is awesome. And it's a shame that Mormons don't even acknowledge him as having any part in the formation, the foundation of the church. That they claim is the foundation of them, but they don't believe it. Only in their lips do they speak of it. And Junior established the church, and then they deny him, calling him Christian, calling the Book of Mormon another testament of Jesus. And so Mormons miss the prophecies. So, got to keep this one because there's a couple other stuff that I have to deal with. Put a link for the first part on fallacies, and then I got to remember to put the Seventh-day Adventist link for this one, for this video, just for Jasmine. So, alrighty, we be done. But yeah, the Seventh-day Adventist woman, prophesied of the latter days, was wrong. Joseph Smith Sr. Again, Jasmine is just awesome on this. Joseph Smith Sr. was affiliated with the New Israelites of Nathaniel Wood in Vermont. He too prophesied of a day of destruction, and it didn't happen. And so Senior knows about that. He knows about false prophets, false prophecies. And here he was, educated in the learning of the Jews through his religion. And so on 9/11, 1826, Joseph Smith Sr. is activated, and the Book of Mormon begins. And Junior loses the 116 pages to Martin Harris, who steals them. And Junior is put on timeout as Senior now reveals to the world, without revealing his identity, how truly awesome he is. Because they've happened. I've been doing the videos. Those prophecies in the rewritten 116 pages have been happening. Because April 2024 is the end. And it's just a couple of months away. A few months. Everything has been fulfilled in the learning of the Jews by the Jewish authors who wrote and prophesied of them, and the dates and the hours and the locations on earth. This is why Joseph Smith said in his Wentworth letter that the United States of America is the New Jerusalem. It is not Jerusalem of old. Zion and New Jerusalem, the mountain cities of the Christ. The latter-day rabbi, wagoner of the sun god at noonday. And all Mormons had to do was listen to him and get out of Babylon. And you won't.